Welcome to Tiger Wolf. I'm Josh, and this is David.
Please be aware, this podcast contains strong language and spoilers.
So, I'm kind of disappointed.
In what?
Despite the fact that I didn't like Justice League, as it wasn't... I didn't hate it. They apparently are giving up on multi-movie storytelling with the DC universe.
I can understand why. Because at least half of the movies currently released have had not stellar reviews from the fans.
Yeah. Not to be that guy, but the vocal minority for movies lately has been fairly full of shit.
I think the issue with some of them was they went in expecting something different.
You mean like a good Flash?
People went into Suicide Squad expecting a villain version of Justice League, and I went in expecting a bunch of villains doing stupid shit with explosions. Guess what the fuck I got?
You got a Will Smith movie. That's what you got.
I got villains doing stupid shit with explosions.
I went in expecting villains doing stupid shit with explosions, and I got a Will Smith movie.
I got what I expected, not some grandiose.
It was still kind of grandiose.
I didn't have a grandiose expectation that they were gonna, this was gonna be the thing that made villain movies.
I don't
the kick.
Think that you are seeing why people didn't like that. Then,
people didn't like it because of the storytelling.
Yeah, it wasn't good storytelling for villains.
It was basically...
It wasn't good storytelling because somebody used his star power. I don't dislike Will Smith. I don't want to put that out there. I don't like he's worked hard for what he has, and I respect that. I also think that he makes bad choices in his parts sometimes. And I think that he's potentially, I don't know him personally, so obviously I don't know, his ego is a little bit too big to be able to admit defeat in that kind of stuff. And will blame it on the movie or something else, like, what was that one called with his son?
After Earth.
Was it After Earth?
Yeah.
I enjoyed that movie a lot. And he viewed it as a failure and was sad that he brought his son into it. And then, but I feel like he kind of used his star power, and this is like a rumor and whatnot, so I have no real foundation of it. But it really felt like that story was heavily geared around his character. As much as Harley Quinn, who was the quote-unquote star of the movie.
Harley was the female lead. Deadshot was the male lead of the movie. That's the way it went.
And I feel like that also detracted from the other villains.
I would say it took away a lot. And they were adapting. This is going to sound really mean because Zack Snyder's the guy who directed it.
Mm-hmm.
He did an amazing job with Watchmen.
Watchmen was great.
Right?
There's a lot of people who didn't really like Watchmen either, though.
True. He also did 300. He has a very specific way of his storytelling, but at the same time, Warner Brothers was kind of just letting him do whatever he wanted. Look, these are the characters you can use. Have fun. So he did whatever he wanted to do instead of looking at the source material and enjoying it, making it so that the fans of the Suicide Squad would enjoy it. He took the basic themes of this chick takes supervillains and offers them deals to do suicide missions to reduce the time they're spending in jail. That's what he took from Suicide Squad, which is, yes, pretty much the basic premise.
Well, I mean, it's not always villains, apparently. But
No, it's not always villains, because Harley's become more of a hero in the comics. In the comics, her solo series, she's more of a hero.
In her comics, you mean?
In Suicide Squad, she's more of a hero than what's portrayed in another comic.
I mean, she was kind of a hero in the movie, for that matter. And Deadshot was like an anti-hero.
Yeah, which he originally started out as.
I mean, I don't really know anything about him as a character. But I mean, this wasn't meant to be a discussion on Suicide Squad specifically.
But I mean, you've got people.
I think the main issue with that one was they chose the wrong bad guy for that group of bad guys to fight against.
Yeah,
it did not feel like the right choices. And I feel like what's her name would have chosen better.
Amanda Waller.
Yeah, would have chosen a better team
to go after.
Put a better team together to go after that one.
Yeah.
So it should have been a different actual villain.
I feel like Enchantress would have made a better villain for like the Justice League Dark, like Constantine, Zatanna, Edrican the Demon.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the closest thing we had with like kind of related in the same way was the dude who changed into
was El Diablo.
Yeah.
My favorite character from the movie.
Right. That's what I mean. Like he didn't get enough screen time and stuff like that. And then there was like all the beats in it seemed like it was rushed, like the whole bar thing and everything. Like it all felt very rushed just so we could get to an end point. And that's usually the case with DC movies. Is it feels so rushed. They expect you to know these characters instead of building up rapport with their audience. Because guess what? If you're making a movie for a broad audience, you can't count on everybody being a fan. I don't like Superman. Make me like Superman.
I think Man of Steel did that pretty well.
I did like Man of Steel because they did take the slow route and actually make him more of what is actually Superman. I mean, I say that and I love the old Superman movies.
Yeah.
And I also I recently read a snippet of Comet where he was talking down a jumper.
Yeah.
And he's just like, he makes a promise that he's not going to force them down against their will. And he was like, okay, I'll just stay here with you then. And he just stays there for hours with them. And then he's like, I believe it ends on the note of, if you can honestly tell me that you believe that there is not one more happy day out there for you, then go ahead and go. I won't stop you. I'll keep to my word. But if you think that might be the case, let me help you. And because they're like, it's not fair, this, that, and the other. And he's like, no, it's
Life
not.
is not fair.
He's like, no, it's not. It's also not unfair, though. It's not weighted one way or the other, is basically what the point he was making.
It may seem like it sometimes, but it's really not.
Yeah. Which that was impactful, like, in a lot of ways. Because it showed that, like, that's the Boy Scout Superman stuff I do like.
Yeah.
Though that's the human side of Superman that gets lost in translation in most Superman mediums with writers who don't really know what they're working with. They only know him as
the big
fly
blue Boy Scout.
Well, they only know him as fly, deflect bullets, laser eyes, super strength. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like the Christopher Reeves Superman was definitely more than that. I mean, there was a solid half of those movies. Usually, I mean, it got a little less for the third movie, but where he's not Superman, he's Clark Kent and dealing with Clark Kent things.
Yeah, showing the
and then there's the
perceived human side of him.
And there's three aspects of the Christopher Reeves movies, specifically the first one. Actually, I think each of these moments is in a different movie. One, the first movie didn't have a villain.
It was just him saving people.
It was just him going around saving people, doing the Superman thing, which was awesome in the sense of like it was still large scale in the sense it was multiple people. You know, it was events that were happening, but it wasn't like because Superman is there's a villain type of thing.
Yeah.
Two, the moment where Lois Lane realizes he's Superman, when he trips and his hand goes in the fire.
Yeah.
And 3, when he's had enough shit and a guy starts a fucking bar fight with him. Those are like my 3 favorite moments of those Christopher Reeve movies. And then we have those kinds of things in the
Man of Steel one.
The Man of Steel with the logging truck. And stuff like that.
I love the logging truck, and I really enjoyed him saving the guys on the oil rig.
Yeah, exactly. That's the kind of thing. Like that was the point I'm making. Like, a mutual friend of ours complained that it was too much of him being a Jesus figure. Yeah. But it's like that's literally one, the kind of concept he's based off of is help people, and 2, like I love that it had that first half that was stuff like that.
Yeah,
and then it had the second half, which is the part I actually would argue the most about, even though I did enjoy it, which is where Zod came in.
Yeah.
1, first movie, Zod, no. 2, because Zod is supposed to be like
they went with one of the more.
Well, the point is that Zod is supposed to be like anti-Superman.
Superman has like 3 prime villains.
He's Darklink, you know?
There are 3 villains that are, people, you say Superman, there are probably 3 villains they can name.
Brainiac.
Lex Luthor.
Don't flip me off, you asshole.
Zod and Doomsday.
What about Brainiac? He's even in one of the Christopher.
Most people forget that he's
Lex Luthor is the reason Brainiac is a thing in the Christopher Reeve movies.
Most people forget about Brainiac because
and Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor programmed it because apparently he was a savant.
They typically associate Brainiac, at least now. Yeah, he's a Superman villain, but it's kind of transitioned
he's
more
kind of DC,
a Justice League villain.
Yeah, the DC Universe Online.
Yeah,
he's the bad guy.
He's the thing.
Yeah, I could see that.
But I mean, if you say
Doomsday's only a thing because he's the Death of Superman villain.
Yeah.
Lex Luthor is only because, he's Lex Luthor. He's in love with Superman.
He's the human villain for Superman. He's the iconic human villain. And then you have...
And I'll be honest, I don't really like comic book Lex Luthor that much. I do not like the bald Lex Luthor character.
So you've got Lex, who's the human.
I like the guy, I don't remember. He's
Jesse Eisenberg.
Actor. Is that who it was? I liked him. He did a good job.
And you've got the human.
Oh, no, not Jesse Eisenberg. No, he was okay. No, I'm actually talking about Lex Luthor from the Christopher Reeve movie. Yeah, he's an older actor, obviously.
Yeah, I can't think of it.
He just played that time's rich, pompous asshole very well.
Yeah. And then you've got the hero, the villain that is comparable to the hero himself in Zod. They're both Kryptonians. They're both superpowered. And then you have the monster. So
what you're suggesting to me?
Doomsday.
Well, yeah, but Doomsday is known because of Death of Superman.
He's the monster. He's the insurpassable.
So is Apocalypse.
He's the insurpassable.
Not Apocalypse.
Darkseid.
Yes.
He's the insurpassable monster.
What's called Apocalypse?
It's because he rules Apocalypse.
Yeah, exactly. I know exactly why. But I'm on board with what you're saying. But that's my point, actually, is that the first movie's not the movie to have one of the well-known villains in, because they need to have an impactful presence against something you've been established with.
Or have them not be necessarily the villain, but introduced.
Darklink is not the first fucking boss you fight ever. He's second to last.
Mm-hmm.
Which means Zod should have been right before Doomsday. Oh, wait. They did Doomsday right after that, didn't they?
Even though technically Doomsday is actually Zod.
That's true. That is very true. Because of Lex Luthor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, that's 3 of those 3 villains you were talking about in one movie.
Yeah.
Being villains in that movie. And it was the second Superman movie.
Yep.
Also, the first of this Batman.
Yep. And the only of this Batman. Well,
unfortunately, the second. It's one of 2.
Oh, yeah, because he's in Justice League.
But I really like Batfleck. I was really surprised with him, and I hate that he's not going to continue doing it, because I really wanted to see where that was going, especially if they were going to match up the Joaquin Phoenix Joker
against that.
against that, like the younger Batfleck.
Yeah.
I think that would have been really interesting.
Oh, I think
especially if he was the Joker that killed the Robin.
There are several of the people I work with view the DCU as a failure. And one of the reasons they cite is the Batman's wrong.
But
it wasn't a good version of the character. I'm like, yes, it was. They were going for the old, grizzled, emotionally broken version.
Yeah.
Which was exactly what you got with Batfleck.
And also exactly what you needed to go with that Superman that we established.
Yeah, it made, those choices made sense. Their version honestly, of Wonder Woman,
like those three, perfect. those
the
core
Trinity.
I don't like that because it excludes the one, the other one that I feel is also part of the prime Justice League,
the core.
But yes, I think that those characters did fit each other very well.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they didn't feel like they had to do another Batman movie before the Batman versus Superman to establish that Batman, because we've only had that 3 times.
Yeah. Like, and that's another argument.
Well, I guess technically twice.
That's another argument people make is, you don't need an origin story for Batman. We know it. You don't need an origin story for Superman. We know it.
Except that this Man of Steel was not different, just a modernization of a good storytelling of Superman's. And we didn't have to go through his whole like life story before he was an adult. We had like a brief skim of it because we knew.
Yeah. They picked out.
But we're going to get that soon.
They picked out a few, key points.
Crazy kid.
They picked out a few key points, like when his dad died.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff at the truck stop. Or the diner. The oil rig. And another complaint I've seen a lot
is that why I can't be a super...
figured out who Superman was. I'm sorry. Logically, okay, this happened here. Hey, this guy was here. This happened here. Same guy's here. That happened? Same guy is there. I'm going to start following this guy.
Oh, you're talking about why Batman chose to fight Superman? Is that what you're talking about?
No, how Lois Lane figured out who Superman was.
Oh, yeah.
It makes sense. This guy happens to be in the same spot. All of this crazy shit happens.
I kind of like the Christopher Reeves thing, is that like he finally convinced her. Well, no, they were going someplace for work, but they had already had kind of a connection.
Yeah.
And it's just the whole trip in the fire thing.
Straight into the fire.
It was pretty good. Yeah, no, like I totally. She's a fucking what's it called? Detective reporter. Yeah, investigative reporter.
She's supposed to be good at her job. Guess what? She's good at her job. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, man, like I enjoyed Batman versus Superman. I didn't hate Justice League. I just hated Flash. Because Flash is my favorite, and I didn't like what they did with him.
Yeah, you were going to be
disappointed.
And that's not what I was going to say. I was going to say you were going to be overly critical of the Flash.
Especially since we have a half-decent Flash in the TV show.
Yeah.
I like that Flash.
Yeah.
He's a good actor for Barry. The type of Barry he is good.
Yeah,
the outfit is solid. All of those things are not in that movie. It's not a good actor for Barry. It's not a good Barry. And the armor plated suit thing. Really? And then also they made him kind of an idiot.
However, I do like that actor in another set of movies.
Like him, I could see him being Wally. A younger, Teen Titans Wally, just after Teen Titans Wally or something like that. Wally 1.0, not Wally 2.0.
Yeah. The ginger Wally.
I feel like that character would be good for that. I don't think he's a good Barry.
Yeah.
Barry is, I mean, he works.
He's a CSI.
Forensic. Yeah. Like, he's not stupid.
He,
This guy literally was like, "Oh, they all left. I gotta go." Like, really?
like I
They
remember,
just made him an inexperienced teenager, basically.
I remember a quote from the comic. It's Barry talking to Wally. He's like, there's one thing I really hate about being the fastest man alive.
Is it all the burgers?
No, he hates his argument was, I have not seen the first 10 minutes of a movie in 10 years because of it. Because Barry is always late.
And also has to leave early.
Yeah.
That was one thing I saw on something. It was like, if superheroes were real in real life, everybody would be able to figure it out because, like, you'd have 5 minutes of time with them before they'd had to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then come back and then have 5 more minutes before they had to go again. Like, they would not be able to have any actual personal relationships with people because they'd be so flaky.
Mm-hmm. They would be that friend that you just don't invite places because if they show up, they're going to show up late. If they don't show up, well, you kind of expected that. Or if they do show up, they're going to leave before you're done doing whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
They're that friend you don't invite places.
I still invite you places.
That's fair. But I am definitely not a superhero. I may always be late and I may have to leave early, but it is clear I am not, by any stretch of the imagination, a hero.
No, you were just unreliable.
Exactly.
But you've definitely fixed some of that. Mainly because I have to pick you up.
That's fair.
No, I just have to start being on time.
That's very fair. But yeah, one of DC's biggest problems, personally, and this is taking out the aspect of me actually being a fan of DC, looking at it from a moviegoer's perspective. They want to tell stories. They want to copy Marvel, but they don't have the right writing talent to copy Marvel. They don't have the right.
I think that the issue is
they don't
that
have
also
the cohesive directing talents to make these stories different but connect.
There's two. Yeah, I agree. There's two things though about that are what I believe are like the peaks of the whys. One is they're trying to copy Marvel. They're not the same type of stories as Marvel.
No.
They are inherently different. It's hard to describe how they're different because they're both superhero stuff. You probably have a better chance of doing that than me. Two is they lack commitment.
They're typically darker stories. I mean, don't get me wrong, Marvel has some pretty dark storylines in the comics, but look at most of the movies. They're not the dark end.
I mean, they still deal with like real world shit.
Yeah, like
Iron Man had an alcoholism problem, and it came out in the movie, like as part of the things that he had to deal with.
And then he had PTSD. They touched the dark things. DC, for better or worse, embroils themselves in that dark. And that's just the thing. Gritty.
Most people complain about it being dark movies, and it's like that's what DC is.
I mean,
it's always shit like I'm gonna go back in time and save my mom from dying. It's always shit like I can't get out of the space in my head where my parents were murdered in front of me. It's always shit like
I'm the last of my kind.
Yeah. Guess what? Those are the core things of what these characters are. They're literally the reasons why they are superheroes.
Yeah, I mean,
in the hero sense, not necessarily in the power sense.
Yeah,
Batman's did come from his parents too. But
look at Captain America. He didn't want to be a hero. He wanted to serve his country. That's all he cared about.
And that was the best way to do it.
And he found
the super soldier.
Yeah, he found the way he was able to accomplish what he wanted. Look at Spider-Man. He was a kid.
Well, he has similar
things to Batman, but if you compare them side by side, he's a lot more happy-go-lucky because he didn't let the death. Yes, he let the death of Uncle Ben define who he was going to become.
Also, he does something Barry does. sarcasm.
Yes. But he didn't let it define who he was.
Also, it didn't happen as early in his life.
True. Bruce was 8, 10.
Well, this was a joke I was going to make is I didn't lose a parent when I was a child, so that's probably why I'm not a superhero.
Most superheroes don't have their parents.
Or a parent, at least.
Yeah, or
even Superman had both of that happen.
Yeah.
He never knew his real parents.
And then lost
his dad died. His adopted dad died.
And then Bruce lost
both of his parents in front of him.
In front of him in a random act of violence.
A random act of crime that turned into violence.
Random act of violent crime. It was just the toss of the dice that made Batman who he is.
Hold on.
In a grander scheme of things.
At the same time, though, who, as a multi-million-dollar businessman, goes down a dark alley
without security
anywhere ever, just anywhere ever?
But I mean,
especially if you potentially may have hands in crime in that city and know what it can be like.
Yeah,
because there's apparently a version where Father Wayne was not as good a guy as Batman would think him to be.
Yeah. I mean, you've got...
And Barry lost his mom and dad, technically, because his dad went into jail because there was the only thing the police had for evidence.
It had to have been him.
It wasn't you, so it had to have been him.
Yeah, sure. Okay, maybe it's some third guy who's really fast. Whatever, kid. Look.
Well, remember he couldn't make him out, right?
It was just
lightning around his mom.
It was just yellow lightning and red lightning.
And red lightning.
Yeah. There's like 4 sets of red lightning in that fucking room.
And red lightning. Because he couldn't figure his shit out.
Yeah, Barry is probably the most happy-go-lucky of the DC characters.
And that's
the main DC characters.
And that's because that's partly in the sense of because he got adopted by somebody who still did a good job of raising him, who happened to be one of the cops that worked the case, I believe, and knew them personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, Barry, like I said, Barry's one of the happy-go-lucky ones. If you're going to do a Flash movie, you should probably do a happy-go-lucky Flash movie before you jump balls deep into fucking Flashpoint.
Oh, which is exactly what they were starting to do in that with the Flash jump coming through to Batman twice, at least once. And
I mean, seriously?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I totally agree with that. Like that's what I mean. They're too eager. They didn't have, like you said, they didn't have the right writing staff to stretch this out in the proper way. They didn't have the commitment to make solid movies and not just try to go as much. Like, let's fit as much of the story in here as we can. That's not how you tell a story. You don't throw all your plot points out there and say, "Do you like it?" Well, no. The string is going zigzags.
Why couldn't you have just made it a bit more flatline instead of looking like the mountain range in the Himalayas? Just a question.
Wow, you really have played too much Tomb Raider.
Well, I suppose that's the end of the episode.
Please like, comment, follow, and share. And also, more importantly, thank you for listening.
Take care. Bye.